Commander Chakotay from Star Trek Voyager represented the biggest missed opportunity out of an entire series of missed opportunities. I already did a video suggesting the premise the series set up, that the Maquis and Starfleet officers stranded on the other side of the universe should have had more trouble working together. Chakotay was the leader of the Maquis crew Janeway was sent to find at the beginning of the series, and was promoted to second in command when everyone realized they stood a better chance of getting home if they worked together. The Maquis were, depending on who you ask, terrorists or freedom fighters. Their cause centered on the Federation giving planets already inhabited by innocent civilians to the Cardassians, a species that was mostly hostile with the Federation. The Maquis didn't like this and rebelled. Chakotay joined the Maquis after he was already part of Starfleet, when his father was killed by Cardassians, as he and his people lived on one of the worlds near Cardassian space. And here's where I feel like they could have made an interesting choice concerning Chakotay. While the Maquis were most heavily featured in Deep Space Nine and Voyager, they first appeared in Next Generation Season 7, Episode 20, Journey's End, the one where Picard is ordered to evacuate a planet of Native Americans because their planet was one of the ones given to Cardassia. This episode first aired on March 28, 1994, with Voyager's pilot episode Caretaker airing on January 1995, which would have given them plenty of time to seed another character who would be showing up in less than a year on another show. There's pros and cons to this idea. Connecting one Native American character to another tribe might seem lazy and reductive. There's many tribes on Earth, but we're never told what tribe Picard has to evacuate. Chakotay's tribe also wasn't identified, although we later find out he's connected to the Rubber Tree people, a tribe descended from the Inheritors. The pros, at least as I see it, is that the motivations of the Maquis are right there in Journey's End. If it was some other motivation for evacuating this tribe, like we need to build a power plant or something like that, it never would have crossed my mind to suggest this. Not to mention, since we don't spend much time with the families of any of the crew of Voyager, since we're bazillions of light years from their families, saying Chakotay joined the Maquis because of the death of a loved one falls kind of flat for me. But if you say it's not only because of a specific action of Starfleet, but one we've seen, and it's from a guy we just finished following for 7 years, that carries a little more weight. And if someone like Harry Kim or Janeway speaks fondly of Picard, it'd be harder to sweep the Maquis resentment of the Federation under the rug, like the series did. Chakotay would almost have to scowl whenever they bring him up, instead of casually mentioning that Janeway does a good impression of Picard. What if everyone wants to get home because they just had a weird near-death experience and they have no friends or family in this corner of space? But after a while, some of them, Chakotay chief among them, might ask themselves, why do I want to go back? So the Federation can take my home away from me again? Throw me in prison for taking up arms when they did that the last time? Sure, there are some bad threats in the Delta Quadrant, but there were in the Alpha Quadrant as well, and they've come across more than enough friendly faces during their travels. What's to stop Chakotay or any other Maquis from saying, this looks like a good place to settle in. If you guys want to go home, good luck. It's going to take 70 years to get back, so we're just going to start over here. You don't want to lose half your cast. Then the premise of the show disappears. You have to find a good reason not to do this. By this point, B'Elanna could be involved with Tom Paris, who was briefly Maquis, but I got the impression he more closely identified with the Federation, so she wouldn't want to leave him. Maybe some of the Maquis redshirts like the concept of staying on some quiet green planet, but they haven't found very many, and it's going to take a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and other 1960s rock groups to survive out here. The chances of survival are about as good as surviving back home, and at least back home we know what we're up against. And the fewer Maquis who want to stay, the less appealing this idea is to Chakotay. But the final nail in the coffin of this idea would be Janeway. Janeway could say, we've had our differences, but I've come to consider you a friend. Not only would our getting home be more difficult without you at our side, but I would consider a personal loss if you weren't with us. And that could be a big season finale episode where you finally see a shift in Maquis and Starfleet hostilities on the ship. There's been a lot of arguments up until now, but this could be the beginning of them starting to get along with each other. If Chakotay's motivation for joining the Maquis was something we had seen before, it would be harder to ignore, and it would be easier to do something like this in the series. Not a big running plot line, just an episode of discourse, and a turning point for the relationships among the characters, provided the show had taken advantage of that built-in conflict. That's it for today. I hope you guys liked this one, and if you did, I'll be back next week with something else. Until then, have a good one.